Thanks, Chief. We're all ready when you are.
Oh, okay. Good morning, everyone. Again, this morning's overflight, we were somewhat short because we wanted to give the incident commander taking over for the brush fire operations today the opportunity to do surveys. But basically what we saw was very insignificant advancement on that north breakout area. So it's still active, wasn't advancing very far or hadn't advanced very far. That's the lower breakout is what triggered the brush fire yesterday. And the brush fire was approximately, based on this morning's assessment, about 180 acres. It moved in a north direction towards the Ainaloa area. And again, just to emphasize for the community, we do have a fire break on the south side of Ainaloa, a defendable fire break. So no threat to the homes there. And maybe something that the community may not be real familiar with is that one of the strategies with these types of fires is to allow the fuel to burn itself out. That reduces the fire threat with any further or future advancing lava flow activity. So that was the strategy yesterday because it was inaccessible to put people on the ground or try to get hoses dragged in or even to use water bucket operations. The strategy was to allow the fire to burn to the fire breaks and then defend it from there, which is what fire is continuing to do. That, again, reduces the future fire risk to the community. So at this point, we're still monitoring those breakouts. It's still pretty early or very early to, with any degree of confidence, forecast what direction, which path of steepest descent these flows will take and where the next threat will be because it is moving so slow at this point. And smoke conditions, again, we're still having a light south component to the winds. So we're seeing not just the smoke from the burning brush and the lava flow and the breakouts, but also the VOG coming out from the source at both Pu'u and Halimamau being dispersed over the lower Puna to Hilo area. So still pretty moderate to heavy VOG conditions and smoke conditions over those areas. And that was pretty much it for us as far as our observations this morning. Do you have any questions?
Chief Oliver, Frankie Stapleton here.
Hi.
Ainaloa subdivision. I was there yesterday. It was very scary. This was before the choppers started coming in and everything. And I'm wondering, does that subdivision have fire hydrants?
No, does not have fire hydrants. One is we do have a very active volunteer fire company in Ainaloa. We also have at the community center a large water tank that was put there both to service or support the community center as well as for fire protection needs. And you may be aware that both the new Pahoa fire station, the one that was built on the highway, as well as the temporary setup at the old Pahoa fire station, both of them have, in addition to the normal structural firefighting trucks that bring 1,000 gallons each, they also have what we call water tankers, which are in excess of 2,500 to 3,000 gallons apiece. So there was adequate water on hand that was dispatched and responded to the fire. And if additional resources were needed from the incident commander, one of the roles civil defense provides is to get those additional resources, which would be reaching out to private contractors, which we've done in the past. And there are a number of them in the Puna area that would also mobilize their mobile water sources to come out. So even though there's an absence of fire hydrant systems in the Puna district in general, and in particular Ainaloa, we do make sure that we have adequate water on hand, mobile sources for any kind of fire operations.
Good. Thank you.
Sure.
Hey, Chief. Brenda Salgado here from Hawaii News Now. What is the status of the brush fire?
Right now, we're still calling it contained but not out, only because this morning we still observe smoldering activity and hot spots, and well within the perimeter of the fire breaks and within the burn area. So no threat to the residents or properties at this time, but we're not calling it out yet. And it's unlikely we'd be calling it out anytime soon, only because as that breakout is slowly moving and burning vegetation, there is the potential for further flare-ups and activity. And unfortunately, we've seen some very dry weather over the last week or so. We are currently in the process of getting a hydrological outlook from the Weather Service to see what's forecasted in the near future as far as any rainfall. You know, one of the other concerns we have, aside from the lava flow and the brush fire, is whether or not that area of the island is going to be experiencing any kind of a let's say, even a temporary drought type condition because, as we know, probably 80+% of the residents in the Puna area are on catchment systems, and we're already seeing lines at the spigot site in Puna, as well as we'll be asking the water haulers. Again, one of our normal reactions to any kind of slight indication of dry weather, we reach out to the water haulers and see what kind of a backlog they may be on as far as water deliveries. That gives us an idea of how dry the conditions have been and what we might continue to see. And that's helpful with planning for fire activity as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, Daryl, it's Megan from the Honolulu Star Advertiser.
Hey, Megan.
Hi. I wanted to double check and see what time the fire actually started. I know on HBO's website they mentioned a brush fire on Monday, but from what I'm hearing, it started on Tuesday.
Yeah, there might have been, we have had multiple fires over the last week or so, and yesterday's fire actually was shortly after 1 o'clock is when the units were dispatched. I can get you the exact time from the fire department, but it would have been after, I want to say after 12:30, and closer to 1 o'clock when we received the call from fire dispatch here at Civil Defense that units are responding to a possible brush fire.
Okay, thank you. That helped to clarify for me.
Yeah, well, we did have a few brush fires, like I said, over the weekend, and again, very small, all associated with the lava flow, all within the perimeter of the fire breaks.
Daryl,
Denise
Trooper
here.
Harold. Oh, go ahead, Denise.
Thanks, Tom. Yesterday in the previous briefings, you mentioned how the widest part of the flow is about 500 yards. That's 300 yards behind the stalled flow front. Are the breakouts along that widest tip, are you seeing that widest part getting wider?
Right. As you mentioned, from about 300 yards back from the stalled flow front and moving further upslope. So as Steve and I were talking this morning, it ranges from like 300 to 500 meters back from the flow front. We still see activity on the flow pad as well as where the breakouts and the widening is occurring, especially to the north. We see, a little lobe there that's moving gradually further and further north. Now, whether or not that lobe actually becomes a new flow front once it starts to maybe change a direction and advance in a particular direction. Right now, it seems to be moving more in a northerly direction with a appearance of widening of the existing flow pad rather than turning and going eastward towards the community and then posing a threat that way. Right now, estimated the width across that area, it's between 500 and 800 yards across, depending how you measure it. And because it's not a nice square or a rectangle, it's got some irregular shape to it.
Okay, thanks. So it's grown from 500 yards to, in some cases, 800 yards.
Yeah, because if you can imagine, it's almost like a point coming off of the flow pad. So it moves northward, somewhat like a triangle or a point, has a little bit of a hook to it, and further back it widens back to the flow pad. So yeah, it's an irregular shape there, moving off to the north.